So, you want a stylish, minimalist watch, but you've only got a tight budget. Where do you start? Well, in this video, I'll be reviewing what's possibly the best cheap minimalist watch, the Timex Fairfield. We'll be taking a look at the specs of the watch, its pros and cons, and how it compares to similar minimalist watches from brands like Daniel Wellington and MVMT. You'll often find the Timex Fairfield variants under the £75 mark, or often even under £50. For these, I'd recommend not buying from Timex themselves, as you'll be able to get them much cheaper from Amazon or alternative retailers. If by the end of this video you want to grab yourself one of these watches, I'll leave all the links to them in the description. I'll try and find the cheapest prices for UK, US and India. Okay, what do you get for your money then? The straps provided with these Timex watches are normally made from genuine leather. This is a typical low-grade leather, which is totally expected at this sort of price. I've been pleasantly surprised how well both of these straps have held up over the past few months. I'd definitely say that they're comparable, if not slightly better, than the straps used by Movement watches or Daniel Wellington. The standard straps also come with the quick release pins, so you can easily interchange the straps. The case is comprised of two different materials. The back section is stainless steel, and then the rest of the watch is made of brass. Now, when I read this online, I was actually surprised. I expected the full construction to be stainless steel, as the case looks and feels better than the stainless steel case used in watches like Daniel Wellington or Movement watches, and I think it really shows that the grade of material isn't necessarily always in line with the quality of it, as I think that they've done a really good job with this one. The curvature and polishing of the case definitely give it a hint of quality, but as with many high shine finishes, it will attract some fingerprints. The glass used is mineral crystal, which is the same as many fashion watch brands, and that's totally fine at this sort of cost, and it will offer some limited scratch protection. These watches have 30 meters of water resistance, and as with many Timex watches, they also come with the famous Indiglow. Pushing in the crown will activate the night light, so at night or in dark situations, it makes the dial really easy to read. This is definitely one of my favorite features about Timex watches. Generally, the case depth is around 9mm for this range, so it's slightly on the slimmer side, and the diameter of the versions that I'm wearing in this video are 41mm, which overall is quite a good size for most guys, but they do offer certain variants at about 37mm, so if you've got a really slim wrist, they might be worth looking at. Inside is some form of Timex quartz movement. As with most fashion watches around this sort of price, these are made in the Far East, but they do normally come with a 2-year warranty. From the specs and the cost, you can tell that these watches aren't meant to be passed down through the generations. This is just a good accessory. These are a low-cost day-to-day watch that won't cost too much to replace. So what do I like about the Timex Fairfield, and what do I not like so much? Well, the first thing I definitely like is the design. The design of the regular Fairfield is super minimalist, with very little clutter on the dial, which makes this watch really versatile. You can easily change up the straps to get a completely different look, and take this from a dress watch to a casual choice. And whilst there are many other minimalist designs out there, I think that this one is just slightly different from most. It's a bit more unique than those offered by Daniel Wellington, whose designs you can get for a fraction of the price direct from China. This one has a slight curvature to the hands and to the hour markers, which give the watch a little bit more character. And overall, I think you get good specs and quality for the price. In this sort of price range, it's not really left lacking in any areas. You can get some Seiko models that are about 30% more expensive than this with an automatic movement in, but for this style of design, at this sort of price range, it's perfectly fine. Now, there are one or two things that I'm a bit nitpicky about with this one. The first is that the regular Fairfield has a relatively loud tick, which in day-to-day use, you're not going to notice, but you'll definitely hear it if you leave it by your bedside at night. That being said, the sub-second version of this watch is apparently significantly quieter. So if that bothers you, then maybe that's worth going for. And additionally, I do wish that they were just a fraction slimmer. But overall, I think it's a lot of watch for your money. Now the question is, why do I recommend these watches? And why do I always mention them as a better alternative to something like a Daniel Wellington, for instance? Well, there's a few reasons for that. The first one for me is value for money. These Timex watches basically offer similar aesthetics and the same specs for half the price of a Daniel Wellington. If anything, when you got both of these in the hand, I'd say this is a better watch. In almost every department, I'd probably take this watch over the others. It's got the same glass, a comparable case, a slightly better strap, the same water resistance. You also get the Indiglow feature. and overall a very similarly sized watch. And if you wanted to, you could literally get 2 different coloured versions of this watch for the price of one of those others. Another thing worth mentioning is the brand heritage and reputation. Timex was founded in 1854 and they've been making wristwatches ever since, so they've got a certain reputation for quality. And the thing for me is better quality control. Watch brands like Movement or Daniel Wellington essentially just mass ship from China, and it's difficult to determine what sort of quality control you get with that. Also, you've got to consider where these brands are spending their money. Now, you've probably heard all about Movement watches and Daniel Wellington before because they're experts at digital marketing. I've done an interesting video on the reason that people don't like these sorts of brands. You can check that one out in the iCard, and it's quite interesting because essentially they spend most of their profits on more marketing. Whereas with certain brands like Timex, you really feel like they're putting more of the money into developing better watches, and they're offering them at such a lower price it's hard to ignore. The reason you don't see more people with these watches on is because Timex frankly aren't very good at digital marketing, because I'm sure that if these were just as good as the other brands were at marketing, that everyone would be wearing these. And the final thing to do with that is with Timex you don't get any stupid deceptive marketing. Tons of fashion watch brands are now advertising their products as luxury or affordable luxury. I mean, you've seen in this video how the specs of a watch half the price are better than them. This Timex watch isn't luxury, and there's certainly nothing luxury about those other watches I've showed. But at least with Timex, they're telling you the truth. They've always been a brand that's tried to provide good value watches for the consumers, which is something that just on a personal level, I just respect a bit more. As I mentioned earlier, if you do want to grab one of these Timex Fairfield watches, I will leave links to them in the description. And every purchase you make helps me to make honest videos just like this one. I want to hear in the comments section below, what's your thoughts on these Timex watches and how do they compare to Daniel Wellington? If you had to choose, which would you go for? If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, share this with someone who wants a cool watch, and I'll see you in the next one, boys.